Today we are going to be gridding out our paper for our photorealism grid enlargement drawing. In order to do this, you're going to need a few supplies. Inside your portfolio folder, I gave you a piece of 9-inch by 12-inch paper. It should be one of the smaller pieces of paper, the same size that we used for our still life. You're also going to need a ruler. The ruler needs to have inch marks on it, and then you're going to need to use your 2H pencil that you were given in your Ziploc bag. What we're going to do is we're going to grid out a 1-inch grid on our paper. So the first thing that you want to do when you're gridding out is you want to create your grid marks. Now, we want to make sure that we're drawing our lines very, very lightly, and we want to make sure that we are drawing our lines straight. So what I'm doing is going across the top of my paper, and I'm just marking a little mark at the 1-inch mark. Then I'm going to slide my ruler down. I don't want to flip my paper because as I'm measuring this, I can see that my paper is actually a little bit smaller than 12 inches. So my last square here is going to be a little bit smaller than 12. If I flip my paper, then my smaller square is going to be on the opposite side, and then I'm going to end up with crooked lines. So you want to make sure that you make your marks at the top of your paper, and then just slide your ruler down, line up your ruler on the same side, and then I'm going to make my marks across the bottom of my page. And you want to make sure that you are making your marks very lightly. I'm trying to make mine a little bit darker just so that you can see it on the screen. If I draw too lightly, you probably can't see. Now I'm just going to line my ruler up with my 2 marks. And I'm going to draw a very, 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 very light line. Now, like I said, I made my line a lot darker than I would want you to make it because I want you to be able to see. But I would want you to make your line very, very light. If you make your line light enough, then you don't have to do erasing. You have to do very little erasing when you go to draw your picture. You don't want your grid to really show up or be part of your picture. The grid is just a tool to help you draw your picture proportionately and to be able to get photorealistic detail in there. You do not want your grid to distract people when they look at your picture. So the lighter you can draw your grid, the better. If you can draw your grid so light that you can barely see it on your paper, then that is best. Make sure I line it up. All right, so I've got my 1-inch lines going that way. Now I just need to repeat the process going the opposite way. So I am going to line my ruler up on this end, and I'm going to make my 1-inch marks. Again, I'm just going to slide my ruler down to this end, and I'm going to make my 1-inch marks. These very, very lightly, right on the 1 inch. And then I'm going to line my ruler up with my 2 marks. And again, I would draw those lines as lightly as you possibly can. I'm making mine very heavy-handed, just so that you can see it for the demonstration purposes. But you want to draw your lines as lightly as you possibly can. All right. Once you're done, you want to check your work. You should have 12 squares going across the long way, and you should have 9 squares going across the short way. And then the last thing that you want to do is you want to label your grid how your picture is. So if your picture is going landscape style, then you would number your numbers across the top and your letters down the side. If your photograph that you chose goes portrait style, which mine does, I want to put very, very lightly my letters across the top, and then I want to put my numbers on the side. Just notice that the A box is also the number 1 box. So my A and my number 1 go in the same box. And again, I want to number this very, very lightly because I am going to be drawing and shading over top of my numbers. And that is how you're going to draw your grid to get started.